الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد. Previously we spoke about from the beginning of Ta'un al-Am, which was a pandemic that took place in the year 1449. Moving on, we spoke about the happenings or things that took place till the 12th of Rajab. And we mentioned that at the 12th of, in the day, on that particular day, the 12th of Rajab, many people passed away. And the number of fatality or the fatality rate increased. And the numbers were but out of control. As mentioned before, about 1,000 people passed away. About 1,000 people passed away on that particular day. Just that's the 12th of Rajab. And that was the trend. That was what was happening. On that particular, from that time in Rajab, curfew was introduced in Dimashq, that's in Damascus. And the sound of curfew was the Isha Salah. The moment the Isha Salah is read, no one was allowed to be outside their homes. They had to be at home. But during the day they could go out. This was steps that were taken. However, eventually they realized that it has no effect, it has no point. So they decided to say, okay, we'll leave it open. It's fine if you want to come out or not, but it's better you stay in. This was, of course, this was from after Isha. But during the day, people were allowed to come out. However, most of the people were unable to even attend to their basic needs because of the amount of people that were dying and how the particular virus or the particular sickness was spreading. On the 7th of Dhul Qa'dah in Ramadan, the problem carried on. In Sha'ban, the problem carried on. Now on Dhul Qa'dah, the khatib of the masjid, the imam of the al-Jami', the main masjid of Damascus, passed away. And his name was Muhammad bin Abdurrahman al-Qazwini. On that particular day when he passed away, then a new imam was appointed by the leaders, by the Khalifa, and the people who were in charge of Dimashq. A new imam was appointed. When that imam was appointed, he led the Dhuhr Salah. Like we said before, like we mentioned before, the masajids were not closed. The masajids remained open. Even during the difficult days, the masajids still remain open. From time to time, you will see after the Dhuhr Salah, this amount of janazah was read. After the Dhuhr Salah, the only curfew that was put was after Isha. People were not allowed to come out. But however, it was lifted after some time. The masjids remain open till the end. This particular sickness here got to, Hafid ibn Hajar rahimahullah mentions in his book Badrul Ma'un, it even got to Makkah, and a lot of people passed away. Mata fiha kathirun. Many people passed away. Those amongst the people who passed away in Makkah, some were the residents of Makkah, the people of Makkah, and others were those who came to Makkah to make Umrah, and so on and so forth. They also passed away. According to the same book of Badrul Ma'un, there are records and there are narrations. There are people who told them, who mentioned that the problem or the pandemic reached to Sin, which is China of today. In Arabic it's called Sin. And in Sin, in China, it had also a very devastating effect. And many people passed away. Same in Hind and Sindh. Now Hind, we know that's India and its surrounding. But Sindh was, at that time, of course till now, Sindh is a province in Pakistan. And that particular province there was also a lot of people who passed away. Now currently Sindh is a province in Pakistan. However, at that time, Sindh was very, very famous. And they were very famous. Around that area of Hind and its surrounding, Sindh was one very prominent place. And many people spoke about it, and there are many things. And whenever something is mentioned regarding the global major areas or the big areas in the world at that particular time, Sindh was always mentioned. Now, was Sindh confined to that province that it is confined to right now, which is one of the huge provinces, but not even the most populated, not even the biggest province. Punjab is perhaps the biggest and the most populated province. So Sindh, when they speak about it in the books of history, are they only confining it to that particular province, or more parts of Pakistan and India fell under Sindh? Allah knows best. However, that area was either it was either part of Sindh or part of Hind, be it Pakistan or India. Moving on, now, there were narrations, or there were people who narrated or who told the people, the historians, Islamic historians, Muslim historians, that the problem was also present in Sindh and Hind, and also in Sindh, which is India, Pakistan, and China. Many other places also was mentioned. In Qahira, in Egypt, the pandemic reached there also, and it caused untold suffering. It was very, very serious. That some of the historians write, and Hafid ibn Hajar rahimahullah in his Badlul Ma'ud, he quotes from them, and he says about 25,000 people were dying daily, just in Qahira, that's in the capital, Cairo. Just in Cairo, in Qahira, about 25,000 people. That was the fatality rate. That's how high it was and how serious it was. One author, one particular alim writes, and Hafid ibn Hajar rahimahullah quotes from his book. He says, بلغ من مات في القاهرة في شعبان ورمضان. Between Sha'ban and Ramadan, about 90,000 people passed away in Qahira. About 90, in its Badlul Ma'un, anyone can go check it up. About 90,000 people passed away in Sha'ban and Ramadan. That's about 60 days. If you have to divide 900,000 by 60, it will be about 15,000 people a day. About 15,000 people a day. But looking at the historians and what the historians write, it looks like it was not 15,000 people every day till the end of the month, but rather mostly it was 25,000 people. However, the number went down on certain days, and very few people were passing away compared to the big number of 25,000 people. However, it averaged up to about or just over 900,000 people between the 2 months, Sha'ban and Ramadan. That's in Qahira. One particular alim by the name Al-Qadi Salahuddin Al-Sadafi says, people were telling one another of this, and this was the common understanding in Sham, in Damascus. He says, إِذَا أَصْبَحْتَ فَلَا تَنْتَظِرِ الْمَسَاء. People's mindset was, if you happen to be alive in the morning, don't, in these times, don't wait for the evening. If you happen to be alive in the morning, don't wait for the evening. Because the amount of people that were dying, if you happen to be alive in the evening, then don't wait for the morning. Do whatever you can do now. Worship Allah. Allah has given you one extra day. This was the mindset. And of course, this was the teachings of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Abdullah bin Umar radiallahu anhu, in an authentic narration, used to tell the people that إِذَا أَصْبَحْتَ فَلَا تَنْتَظِرِ الْمَسَاء وَإِذَا أَمْسَيْتَ فَلَا تَنْتَظِرِ الصَّبَحَ. These were actually the words narrated from this particular Sahabi here. So it's part of the hadith. But people were practicing upon it, he says, this particular alim says. Hafid ibn Hajar rahimahullah writes, he says, مات فيه على سبيل التقريب نصف الموجودين. About half of the world's population passed away. That is, of course, estimating. Now, the number of fatality, the rate of fatality, or the number of people who eventually passed away is estimated to be half of the people of the world. That's how many people passed away. That's how serious the sickness was. May Allah ta'ala protect one and all. But the point here we learn from here is when it happens, when things that it could happen. It happened to people. It happened to good people also. Like mentioned before, these particular plagues could be a sign of our bad deeds. Allah ta'ala says, مَا أَصَابَكُم مِّن مُّصِيبَةٍ فَبِمَا كَسَبَتْ أَيْدِيكُمْ وَيَعْفُو عَن كَثِيرٍ. And it could also be that Allah ta'ala is testing us. And there are ayats, أَحَسِبَ النَّاسُ أَن يُتْرَكُوا أَن يَقُولُوا آمَنَّا وَهُمْ لَا يُفْتَنُونَ. It can happen to anyone. It could happen to Muslims. It could happen to non-Muslims. But the point we need to hold on to is the teachings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in every moment. We've got to understand that. What Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam did. Now, inshallah, we will have another program. We will continue with the same series, but we will, inshallah, conclude with narrations regarding pandemics and We will speak about also other aspects that happened. For example, what Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam told us to do in these times. What is the responsibility of a Muslim in the times of a plague or an outbreak? We will explain all those things inshallah. But we need to just understand one thing, that till now we were focusing on major incidents that took place in Islamic history, major incidents. In between we left out many plagues and we left out many viruses. The reason why we left out in those incidents is because mainly those incidents were confined to a particular place, a small place. Some of them were a lot larger than just being confined to a small place, but much less than what we have discussed. So we try and focus. The first one we have discussed, according to some of the historians, the first one, the Ta'un Amwas that we have discussed, was very, very small compared to what happened after that. For example, if you have to compare it to the one that we just discussed, the pandemic that we have just discussed. Yes, it was very, very small, the historians write. But why we discussed that one is for us to find out what the Sahaba did. Again, the Sahaba did not close any masjid. Today, our first response, when the legal system have allowed us in most of the countries, when the government have allowed us to keep our masjids open, our first place was to close the masjid. And looking at the Muslims of the past, they did not close the masjid at all. In fact, there are narration, there are historians who write that some masjids were closed in some of the pandemics that were discussed, or epidemics that we discussed. For example, the one in 449 we discussed in some time ago. When the masjids were closed there, the masjids were not closed the first time the problem happened. The masjids were closed when there was no one to attend the masjid. When in that particular small locality, everyone in there got extremely sick or died. When everyone passed away and the rest were extremely sick, no one was there to attend the daily salahs, then the masjids were closed. But the masjids, the people starting from the masjid, when there wasn't even a single case, like in our province, perhaps there was one case or two cases and people want to close the masjids. So we need to understand one thing, that if we have to close the doors of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, we have a problem, not to doubt anyone's intention. We perhaps do have wonderful intentions and we want to protect others. But for us to look into the history and to look at the Sahaba and what they did would be very relevant and would give us guidance in this particular matter. May Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala make us those who take heed, who learn from the teachings of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala and His Messenger. May Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala make us those who make the right decisions, and may Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala guide us in every aspect. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.